Good evening and welcome to A View for You, a twice-monthly journal about people and events of interest in the San Francisco Bay Area. My name is Peter Camarda. I'll be your host tonight, and we're broadcasting you live on the San Francisco Public Access Channel, Comcast Channel 76, AT&T Channel 99, and Astound Channel 30. Tonight is another in our continuing series on poetry, and I have with me a live Bay Area poet, Maw Shein Win. Welcome very much to the show. Very nice to have you here, Ma.
Thank you.
And she's going to read to us from a number of her poems, and we also have some text that she wrote to accompany a book by an artist that she's worked with. You actually do a lot of collaborative work with different artists, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's one part of my process. I've worked with a lot of artists in the Bay Area and some artists in Los Angeles, and I've worked on book projects and broadside projects.
And I understand you do some work at the Headland Center for the Arts?
Yes, right now I'm an affiliate artist there.
Mm-hmm.
I have a studio for a year, which I'm really excited about.
That sounds very nice.
I just started 2 weeks ago.
Is it a big studio?
No, it's small, but it's perfect for me. If it was bigger, I'd probably make a big mess. And it's lovely.
Uh-huh.
And I go there when I can and write.
Excellent. And is that just right in Sausalito then? Is it someplace people can visit?
Yes, it's right over the bridge, and it's beautiful there. They have open houses in the summer and the fall. Also in the spring.
In the spring too. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about the creative process, but let's go first and give people a sample of some of your work. I think you had 2 or 3 poems you wanted to read at the beginning, so why don't we start with that? Here is Maw Shein Win.
Hey, thanks, Peter. So the first 3 poems I'm going to read are from Broadside Project I completed during my residency at the Headlands in 2006. And I decided to collaborate with visual artists I already knew, as well as artists who I met there. Dear Unknown Artwork, I don't know if you'll be figurative or abstract, or a combination of both. Nor am I aware of the dimensions, materials, or techniques applied in the making of you. I am mystified as to what your underlying themes and subject matter could be: conflation, intervention, repatriation. I am unprepared as well for your intended sincerity or irony. Equally unpredictable: color, form, texture, surface. Will your composition be minimal? Will you have a vanishing point on your horizon? Will your positive space edge out your negative? In reverie, I have envisioned the boldness of your strokes, thick as matchsticks, in counterbalance with an organic shape, the color of fresh limes. Perhaps you are a sketch employing sculptural elements, maybe a memento mori reminding us of our impending end. Or simply a landscape with dark green hills and a log cabin in the foreground caught on fire.
That's lovely.
Thank you. And this is called Portrait of a Landscape. Butter lupine and wild ginger, coyote brush and horse mint. We ascend the narrow trail, trying not to step on the poison oak, winding its wicked red leaves along the way, past the sprawling eucalyptus. Bobcat disappears up the hill. V-shape of herons overhead, the movement of birds stills us. Repetition of shapes, variations on the line. The wind combs the lagoon, white streaks across green-blue patches as the kingfishers dive in for a feast. Bluebells and thimbleberries hide in the brush. The clouds observe us for a moment, then go on their way.
I like the wicked red leaves.
I stayed away from those. Warning. If you encounter an artist at close range, remain calm. Pick up small children immediately. Stand upright. Maintain eye contact. Back away slowly. Collect branches. Paint them white. Observe the blue jay. Skip lunch. Drink wine. Stay up late. Very late. Follow the breadcrumbs. Call the cougars. Call the mountain lions. Document all sensations. Be assertive. If approached, move arms as if swimming backwards in a lake. Speak intermittently, and above all, do not run.
Excellent. So I was very interested in all of those poems because they all seem to deal with the creative process in a way, and talking about an artwork and not knowing how it's going to turn out, talking about the artists and what it's like to deal with an artist. And of course the landscape was like a painting in words, wasn't it, the way that you did it?
So beautiful there.
Yeah. Yeah, is that the Marin Center
Marin
that you were talking about?
Yes.
So you've done a lot of different collaborative things. You actually ran a rock band at one point?
Well, I didn't run a rock band, but I was in a band. Well, I've been in a couple bands, and I can't really call them bands, but one was called the Flower Cops.
The Flower Cops.
It's more of a performative band, and we dressed all in silver, and we played at different preschools and parties and the Castro Street Fair, and but it's been a project with friends, and we played for, oh gosh, we're together now. You'll know how old I am. For about 15 years.
Wow, wow, that's impressive.
And then years and years ago, and when I was living in Los Angeles, I played drums with my best friend Mark Dutcher, and it was something I did in LA.
So you've done a lot of different kinds of collaboration with other artists. Do you find that that really helps your creative process to be involved with other people?
Yes, definitely. I mean, when I'm writing my poems, of course, I'll write alone in my studio or at home, but I find myself very inspired by working with artists, filmmakers and musicians and visual artists, and there's something, perhaps because I have so many friends who are artists, and I'm interested in the arts myself, all the different arts, and so for me it comes naturally to work with artists.
And at the Headland Center where you work, is there a lot of collaborative work being done there?
It's mixed. The Headlands definitely likes the idea of artists working together, and a lot of artists have collaborated on different projects, and there have been some wonderful projects that have been featured at the open houses, and yeah, I would highly recommend to your audience to come and check out the artwork there.
And I understand you also worked with a number of visual artists producing pieces that go along with their paintings or their visual pieces. Now, you're working currently on a series of broadsides, is that right?
Yes, I'm working with an artist and a good friend named Megan Wilson, and we will be doing a project called Vanquished Terrains, and we're working with 12 writers and 12 visual artists. And basically we're going to create two types of broadsides. One will be a traditional broadside.
Can you explain for the audience a little bit what that is?
Basically text and art together, and they will inform each other. Usually it's on 11 by 18 paper, and would love to have it letterpressed, but I don't know if that'll happen. And then the second part of the project is going to basically be a reinterpretation of a broadside. So the artist and writer pair can basically do anything they want with the concept of vanquished terrains.
So it's like a riff. They're sort of doing a jazz riff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wonderful. So you have done some work in the past with an artist. We have some of the work here for people to look at, and his name is Robert
Ortbal.
Robert Ortbal.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you got involved working with him.
So I have a dear friend named Paul Bridenbaugh, and he introduced me to Robert Ortbal, and he thought we would be a good match. And Robert was looking for a writer to write something for his catalog. He had an exhibition for a show called Benign Growth and Neglect. And I wrote poems as responses to his sculptures.
Well, let's take a look at some of those pictures now, and you can read to us the text that you wrote.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through the pictures a little bit casually, so they're not quite in lockstep with each stanza that you read. Is that right? Okay. So here is Benign Growth and Neglect.
Ginger orange flocking envelops wiry tentacles, pleated spheres, a flowering dilemma, intuitive fountains, and the bell's allure, a flock of bird cages in flight. Fervent seed pods hum, air-spun foam ruminates. Crescent feathers subside, a starling in the echo lodge. Furred sound, a partial recovery. A bottle green beetle inches its way across a limb. Where do the fireflies alight? Why does the eucalyptus slither? What is the origin of smoke? How are the shades drawn? When will the osprey awake? How does obsession count? Will they dream of faded suede? How does the hay stack up? 5:47 p.m. A girl laughing in the attic, a copperhead coiled in the brambles, a hedgehog sleeping in the grove, a slice of orange drops on the carpet.
Very nice.
Thank you.
So those were poems that you wrote after Robert made the actual
Yes.
drawings. But do you have a process now where people are also sort of responding to your poetry in their paintings, or you're responding to their paintings in your poetry, and it's kind of cross-pollination?
Yeah, well, not exactly, but one of the projects I'm working on right now is with an artist named Elizabeth Scher, and she did a residency at Camarda in Spain, and I did the same residency a year before her. And we met each other after she returned, and she had a show at the Berkeley Arts Center. And we discovered that we had something in common. We were both intrigued by these uprooted almond tree stumps. And she had taken many photos of them and later did drawings and paintings of them. So she asked me if I would like to write poems to do a handmade artist book, and that's something I'm working on with her right now. So
Good. Well, let's go on to some more of your poetry.
okay.
So tell us, the next one you're going to do has a Japanese title, I think.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. Shigo no Sakai.
Okay.
And I wrote this while I was living in Japan.
All right.
And by the way, it was published in a local magazine called Hyphen.
Very good.
Shigo no Sakai. What happened was this. I was a rice farmer and struggled to feed my wife and 3 children. We were too poor to afford meat, but we ate yellow cabbage, kale, and rice. One day, as I was watering the fields with my eldest son, I knelt down and saw the body of a child, no older than 3 years. I felt as if my heart had cracked. I had turned 32 that morning. The child wore blue knickers and a blue shirt. His face was as pale as rice powder, and his eyes were open bright to the sky. How did this child come to pass? I took it upon myself to find out. Thus I followed invisible footprints towards the valley of Shigo no Sakai, the world after death. It is where I remain to this day.
That's very mystical. That's really quite beautiful. So what do you think that's about in terms of the world after death, or this farmer following the baby? Did you have a particular image of it, or is it?
Well, when my husband and I were living in Japan, we traveled through the countryside a lot, and we tried to see as much of Japan as we could, and I was thinking a lot about childhood and kind of loss of childhood innocence, and just somehow the landscape there and the diaries I was keeping the year we were living there, this poem came up, and I didn't learn much Nihongo, but I picked up a couple poetic phrases.